Hi, I'm Corey, and today is day 21 of the 100-day project in my version, which is 6 by 6 and 6. My concept is to show a variety of ways to use 6 by 6 paper pads. Today's project is another ephemera folder. This one's just a little bit different. It uses sleeves or cellophane resealable bags that you can buy just about anywhere, and allows you to get in and out of your ephemera folder that way. This one obviously is a vintagey style, but you can use any pattern paper, and I've got a couple different closure options for you. You can use any kind of pattern paper and any kind of ephemera. These particular sleeves that I bought are 4 by 6, but there are a bunch of different sizes out there and you can adjust it, but it does work beautifully with 6 by 6 paper. So let me get a few directions and let's get started. I'm going to try really hard not to bang the camera all the time this time. I'm really good at banging the camera, so I apologize for that. You are going to need some wet glue, ink if you're an inky person. You will need clamps. You want some binder clips for this. Binder clips are just a great tool to have if you do paper crafts because you can use them for lots of things. This one actually uses double-sided adhesive because we're working with these cellophane bags. It seems to work better with the double-sided adhesive, but I don't know, maybe you could use something else, but I recommend double-sided adhesive. You are going to need a trimmer and a scoreboard, and you are going to need 3 sheets of 6 by 6 paper. Directional paper doesn't matter on this one, but you are going to need 3 sheets. Okay, so I've got my directions here so that I hopefully can tell you about the mistakes I made when I was doing it so that you don't make the same mistakes. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut 3 sheets to 4 1/4 by 6 inches. So you don't have to cut the 6 inches, obviously, but you're going to cut them 4 1/4 inches, which is about 10.7 centimeters. And as you kind of have to choose at this point. I made mine going this way vertically, horizontally, so that I could open them like this and see my images this way. You can absolutely just as easily do it like this and have it be a bottom opening and have this be the top. So when you're choosing which paper goes where, you need to decide what orientation you want. Do you want it horizontal or do you want it vertical? And the same thing with this one. This one's non-directional, so it doesn't really matter so much. But if you were doing a directional paper, you need to decide which way it's going to go. And that's when you're going to cut all 3 of them to 4 1/4 by 6. For these, I like it to go this way, just because I do. It's easier to sit them on my shelf. So I need to cut this to 4 1/4. And I'm going to put aside these because we are going to use these. So 1, 2, and 3 at 4 1/4. Okay. So once they're cut, I think that's all the cutting we do. The next step. Oh no, there is one more piece that you have to cut. I was wrong. No, I wasn't wrong. You're not cutting them anymore. You are going to choose one of your pieces. Like this one I might want for my front cover. This one I might want for my back cover. And this one I'm going to use my hinge system. And the hinge system on this one is something that I saw a long time ago. I used to make, I make junk journals now, but I used to make mini albums back in the days when I scrapbooked. And I think it was Kathy Orta, maybe, where I saw this kind of a hinge system with paper. You make an accordion style pleat and you put it in. I think it was her. I could be wrong, but I saw it somewhere. And so when I was thinking of another way to use these, because I have a bunch of these, I thought, that might work real well. And so I don't really know for sure who to give credit to, but there you go. The person who created this accordion style hinge system, they get credit. All right. So that's what you're going to do first. So I'm going to have this be my front cover. I decided this will be my back cover. And this really cool steampunky thing will be my hinge system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this on my score pal. And I am going to score every 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is about 1.2 centimeters. So all the way from the beginning to the 6 inch marks, I'm going to score every 1/2 inch. So I'm going to start at the 1/2 inch and work my way all the way down to 5 1/2 inches. Okay. And that's all we do there. So now I've got it scored. I'm going to fold at each of these. And I do it this way. You certainly don't have to, but I just find it a little bit easier. You can just hold it in your hands and accordion it. I don't know why I do it this way. I guess because when I made paper fans when I was in school, this is how I did it. And every once in a while I'll play with my students and we'll do paper fans and stuff like that. And they look at me like I'm crazy. So I'm going to paper fan this all the way across. And you know what? These don't have to be 100% perfect. So if you get off a little bit, it's okay, because you're really wanting the accordion pleats. That's really what you need. So as long as you've got accordion pleats, you're good. All right, now this step is kind of important. When you've got it on your desk, you want to glue the part. See how it makes a W here? See how it makes a W? And this way it makes an M. So the ends or the flaps are down. This way the flats are up. Slats are up. So I actually want it to go the other way because I want to see the dark brown. I don't want to see, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. I want to see the dark brown and not the pattern. So that's why I'm going to refold it. And it's still going to be just as sturdy and it doesn't matter, but I'm just going to fold it in the other direction. When you're gluing or when you're folding, you want, again, it to be an M, not a W. You want when you're putting the glue in it to make your accordion pleats, you want it to go in that direction. Okay, so I've refolded this, and I can score it if I want to, but what the heck. So when it's down on my desk, it's going to make an M. The very end piece will go down in an M as opposed to a W. And now my next step is, when I'm gluing these pieces together, I am going to glue in the valley and the divot between each of the pieces. So I'm going to glue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put glue in those 5 valleys. Again, the edges are down, making an M. And I'm going to put my wet glue in here. My in frame. I don't know if you can see it with that big old back of the glue there. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the glue in these valleys. And there's 5 of them with this size paper. 3, 4, and 5. So I want glue in all 5 of those slots, okay? And then I'm going to come in and just squeeze all of those together. And this is where I'm going to clamp it, because I want that to dry. That's going to be the hinge system that holds my pages in place. And so I want to make sure it's kind of dry. So we're going to go on to the next step while this is drying. That's why we did that first. Okay, so you've got them clamped and you're going to put them aside. So you're going to get your other 2 pieces. And this is going to be my front and my back. You decide what you want as your front and your back. And then you're going to take your scraps. You've got a bunch of scraps. And you decide which scrap you want as your hinge. Do I want this scrap? When I say hinge, I don't really mean hinge. I mean this piece right here. This section. This section right here that holds the front and the back pieces together. Decide which one you want for that. I kind of like the way that looks, but that's good. That's good. That's good. And let's see, what was this last piece? Meh, I don't like that. I actually kind of like this one. So this piece right here, I am going to cut to my 4, did I say 4.5 or 4 1/4? 4 1/4 inches. I hope I cut those right. Sometimes when I'm talking, I'm not thinking, okay, good, I did cut it to 4 1/4. And so I want this piece to go, I want this piece to go right here as my back flap. So I'm going to cut that down to 4 1/4 also. Okay, so 4 1/4 inches. And it's 4 1/4 by 1 3/4. So that's what was left when we cut off 4 1/4 from this. So we've got 1 3/4 left. Now, this one, because I knew it was going to be chunky, this was larger paper. I cut this at 2¼ inches. And this one obviously isn't 2¼ So all that really means is it's not going to roll over as much. I'm not going to have as much of a lap on this side and then let this side. Still works just as well, but you're just not going to have as much there because this one's just a little bit narrower. So what I want to do is I want 1/4 inch. And the reason I want 1/4 inch is so that when I put my hinge system in here, I've got a channel or a groove for that hinge to sit in. Now I have a lot of ephemera in this particular one, so it's kind of chunky, but I tend to make most things kind of chunky, so that's not really a surprise. But I do want 1/4 inch hinge. So regardless of what size scrap you want to make sure your hinge in the middle is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to put this here. And I'm not going to give you specific dimensions because whatever size scrap you're working with will be where you make your quarter inch. On this particular one, because I've got it at just a little less than 2 inches, I'm going to go 5/8 and 7/8. Whoops, moved it. 7/8, which gives me 1/4 inch. So 5/8 and 7/8. And I'm going to have roughly the same amount on either side. It's not exact, but it doesn't matter because one's the front and one's the back. And then I'm going to just fold those down on the crease lines that I just made. So I've got 1/4 inch hinge, and they're roughly, well, you can see it's not perfect. If that bothers you, let's see, can you see? If that bothers you, go ahead and trim it right now. It doesn't matter to me at all because, like I said, one is going to be the front and one is going to be the back. And if they don't match up, it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to worry about it. But if I were going to sew this, like I usually like to sew things, this is where I would sew it, right here. I would glue this on, and then I would do the sewing piece. But I also like to ink things. And before I put the hinge on my front and back piece, I am going to ink it. You could also, if you want a decorative edge, or if you were wanting to put lace there, like I used a lace hinge here, but if I were a really lacy person and I wanted a lot of lace, before I put this piece onto this piece, I could put a bit of lace right here, or a bit of trim, whatever you want. It gives you, you have some options. But now is the time to do it before you glue them together. So I am going to ink it, and I'm not going to sew this, but you could certainly sew this. And I am going to ink this edge. So I'm going to ink my front and back edges. Okay, I've already been talking too long. This was supposed to be faster, but I just kind of ramble, so sorry about that. So inking my front and back edges, and now I'm going to glue it here, but I'm going to show you something because I usually tend to make things kind of chunky, and you have a little bit of give with those. I could push this, I've got my hinge here, my little U shape. I could push it all the way back up to here, but I don't want to. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to zoom in to see if I can let you see what I'm talking about. What I'm going to do, I haven't glued anything yet. I'm going to take a ruler or something with a narrow ledge that's the same dimension all the way across. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to put the channel down, right? I'm going to put my channel down and I'm going to lay my ruler against the back of this. So here's my hinge, or here's my U, my channel. I'm going to open that up and I'm going to lay this down flat. And I'm going to put my ruler right up against that. Okay? Putting it right up against that. So when I lay this piece in, this front piece in, I am going to have it butt up against the ruler rather than the back of the page. And I'll be able to show you what I mean in just a moment. So I've got my ruler here and I'm holding it in place. And then I'm putting my glue, because I'm not going to sew this, so I'm using a lot of glue. If I were sewing it, I would just use a tiny bit of glue to hold it while I was getting it ready. So I've got my ruler up against the back. I've got my paper. Because it's directional, I want to make sure it opens in the right direction because I want this piece to be the front. And now I'm going to lay it down just up to the edge of that ruler. Okay? That ruler is my stop, my guide. Okay? I'm going to push it down. It should be pretty quick. Okay, so when I lift it away, you can see it is not, this paper is not all the way into the, Okay, sorry about that. This paper is not all the way into that crease. I've got, I don't know, whatever that is, maybe 1/8 of an inch. Is that about 1/8 of an inch thick? Roughly 1/8 of an inch between the end of my paper and where I made that fold. That just makes my paper, if you see here, that just makes my paper about 1/8 of an inch longer. And so when I put those sleeves in, those perfect 4x6 sleeves, I'm going to have a little bit more wiggle room if I make my items chunky, okay? You don't have to do this. If you want to push your paper all the way back up to the divot or to the crease, the fold, you can. But I just feel like it gives me a little bit more working room, and that's why I do it. And I'm going to do this exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to put, let's see, I'm going to put my crease down. I'm going to hold my ruler to the crease, just like I did there. So you can see here it's an L. I'm going to put my ruler to the crease, and I'm going to put the wet glue down. And there's a name for whatever it is. A shim. That's what I'm working on. I'm putting a shim in there. And again, let's see, make sure my directions are going the right way. Yeah, my front and back directions are going in the right way. So I'm not going to have this upside down. That is definitely something you want to check. I'm going to lay it down there so I know it's going up against it flush. I'm going to make sure my edges match up. And there we go. I can remove my ruler. All right, I don't know how well you can see this, but I'm going to show you. I have about 1/8 of an inch between the fold, the crease, and the end of my paper, and I have about 1/8 of an inch between the crease and the end of my paper. So you can see it looks, there you go, it looks just like that. Okay, all right, so that was the quote-unquote hard part. Like I said, you can push it all the way to the back if you're not as concerned about it being a little bit extra long, but maybe you don't put as much chunky stuff in yours as I do. So there we go. That's the outside of my case. I'm going to zoom back out because that's just crazy close. And now I'm going to put my hinge in. And I'm going to unclamp my hinge. And I am going to, oh, I did it backwards. Okay, you still want the M down, but when I put the glue in the brown, it put the glue together. I should have done it the other way. I should have left it the way I had it. But that's okay, because it truly, truly, truly doesn't matter for this hinge. You can put whatever colors you want. And now your next step is you're going to glue this just on these two, your M pieces. You're going to glue those right here in the center of your score line. And just like that. See, it's going to fit just like so. Okay? See, it's about, you can see mine. I didn't fold it perfectly. It's kind of cattywampus. That's okay. It's not going to show. So I do one side at a time. That way I have wiggle room if I make a mistake, because I do make mistakes. Again, you can use double-sided tape, but I would not use double-sided tape for this, because once you put it in, it's in and you've got no room to move it. So I told you I wasn't going to do that, and I did. I apologize. So I'm going to put one side in, and I'm going to put that center fold in the middle of my crease, and I am going to hold, okay, or I'm just going to wiggle it around a little bit, and I am going to hold it down for just a minute or so, and I've got both of my sides even so that it's where I want it to be. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to put that glue right here. And put this on the other piece. It kind of like just automatically goes there, which makes it a little bit easy for you. Just you got to double check and make sure you've got it where you want it on both sides. And hold it down and let it dry. You could clamp it. I probably would, but for the sake of speed, I'm not going to. So when you open it up, you now have an accordion fold and you have a place. Like if I were making this into a book or an album, what I would do is take my pages, which would obviously be the right size, and I would glue them down right here. I would use my double-sided tape and glue that down, and that would give me my pages for my book. But we're using those plastic sleeves because we want this to be an ephemera holder. But you're still going to do the same darn thing. And this is where I can show you why you want an M and not a W. Because if you do a W, you have space. for 5 of those plastic sleeves. If you do an M, you have a space for 6. So you get an extra spot with the M. And that's why we're doing it. All right. I don't know what I did, but I didn't measure this correctly. I didn't put it in correctly. I didn't do something correctly. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. If you were like me and you just didn't put it in right, you just kind of refold it a little bit. And look, there you go. Works just great. I'm going to put the double-sided tape down now. And I do that. This is the front cover. So I'm going to put the double-sided tape on the top. So I'm not putting it here on the front page. I'm putting it on the first lip. And you're going to do that on all the lips. And the page things that I got these on Amazon, but you can get them at all kinds of places. I think Michael's and Joann's and Hobby Lobby and Craft Mart and Craft Warehouse and all those stores have them. Mine are 4x6 and I made this 4 1/4, and I did that just to have a little bit of wiggle room so that it doesn't hang out the side. So I don't want my tape to go from edge to edge, because then I'll have more tape than I have sleeve. So I'd go just a little shy and a little shy. Measure it. And then I just push down on my double-sided tape. Then I lift up this flap and I do the same thing on the next one. Again, this is the front, this is the back. So I'm putting it on this side. I'm only putting it on one side so that when I flip through my book, it moves freely. Okay, and I'm going to do that for all 6 of them. 3, 4, 5, and 6, the last one. So the back cover, I am going to put a piece on the back cover, and you'll see why, because it does work well. So I get 6 pockets this way. But you really get kind of 12, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to make sure this is down. I'm going to push it nice and tight, make sure I don't want it to go anywhere. And then your next step, I'm not going to show you all 6 because you're going to get the idea. The tip that I have for this is when you're putting them in, make sure that the resealable side, the piece that has that peel and stick, is at the bottom or on the side, wherever you're going to close it. If you put it up here, you can't get in and out of it. Don't ask me how I know that. And then the other thing you want to check is, it's not always obvious, but when you fold this, you want to make sure whatever way, whether you want it to open with the closure in the back, or if you want it to open with the closure in the front, just make sure that all 6 of them are going in the same direction so that you're not going back and forth when you get into and out of your book. So I like the closure to go in the front so that when I open my book and I go this way, I can just open it from here to get the items that I want out. So I'm going to make sure that that is facing up. My opening is facing up. And then I'm going to come in and peel off my double-sided adhesive and put this. I'm going to put this end down in that groove on that double-sided tape. It's hard to see the double-sided tape once you take the little sticky back off. I hold this up so that I'm pushing it back to the end, and then I just kind of line it up and push it down. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for all 6. Okay, look, you can see here I don't know what I did. Oh, here we go. No, that's straight. For some reason, it's not lining my book straight. Well, if that's the case, see, once it's down, it's down. You are good to go. It's stuck. I put it down a little too tight on that side. Well, heck, see what happens when I do this on video? The other 3 were just fine. All right. Okay, because it's glassine, it gave me a little bit of grace, but I'll highly recommend it. Okay, now it's straight. Okay, so you do the same thing for all 6 sheets. I do one at a time. Peel, put, peel, put, peel, put, peel, put for all 6. And that is your ephemera folder. Now I'm going to show you the one that's done. Both of these are done. What I did is, On this one, I just put 2 eyelets on the front and the back so that I could tie it closed. You don't even have to have it permanently closed if you don't want to. It's not necessary. But I also recommend putting a sheet of paper, cardstock, scrap paper, whatever, inside, because then it gives you, each of your 6 pockets becomes double pockets. So you have place for your ephemera. Let's say I was doing butterflies. I have room for butterflies on the front and on the back. And maybe this one's bees. I can put bees on the front, and maybe I want moths on the back, or flies, or whatever. But it gives you double the pocket space. So then you're going to have 12 pockets to store your ephemera. This one I did a little bit tiny different closure. Tracy Fox from Love Junk Journals is absolutely amazing, and she makes the best digitals ever. And I was looking to store some of these digitals, like these are cigarette cards. I think there's, where else? Tea bags. I think they come in tea bags too. I'm not from the UK, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's it. So anyway, it allowed me to store all of these items. And so you can see by putting a piece of cardstock in there, I've got it 2-sided. And I have a bunch of different sets of ephemera, small pieces. And once I cut these, like the bigger pieces I put in a file folder, but once I start to cut these, I've got all these little bits and pieces around. And this is a great way to store those little bits and pieces. And I can just keep it with the bigger pieces on the set. So, oh, this one I think I was going to tell you. I just sewed a piece. I had a nice wide piece of lace that I thought was kind of fun. I just sewed it on there and put some Velcro dots and a button. And it allows me to make a nice closure on a wider piece. All right, so that's day 21, another ephemera holder. And I think tomorrow's going to be an ephemera holder too for stuff that you use more often, kind of like a desktop maybe. That's what I'm thinking. I hope you enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, please comment below and ask, and I'll be glad to answer them. And have a blessed day.